This is Kyle, and you are back watching, listening, consuming, whatever the hell you're doing to check out Knockouts and Three Counts. And as always, I am back once again, joined by Corey. How in the fuck are you doing on this fine Tuesday, bro?
Lovely Tuesday, man. In the Christmas spirit. Ready for it to be here, man. Got these kids all excited. Elves have been working hard this Christmas. I'm sure all you parents out there understand what I'm talking about. Other than that, though, man, I'm ready. I want to get this one last day of work out the way and on to the Christmas festivities, man. What about you?
I'm in the same boat, dude. I got to work tomorrow, and then this holiday pretty much worked out in my favor to where because my day off is Thursday, Christmas Eve is I'm off, and then Christmas Eve I'm off, and then I'm off Christmas Day because it's Christmas Day. So it works out good for me, man. I get a couple days off, and God, is it much needed, man. I'm just looking forward to kicking it with the family. But speaking of kicking it, we were kicking it this past weekend, and there were a lot of fights and a lot of shit that was going on. So which one do you want to jump into first? For those of you, yeah, Corey, so which one do you want to tackle first? Are we talking about the fights, or are we talking about Submission Underground?
So, well, definitely going to at least start with the UFC card. And I'm going to full-on jack off one of my favorite shows.
You're going to jack off one of your favorite shows? Yeah, what? You mean jack off one of your favorite shows?
Yeah. No, I'm going to jack as in steal it. But what I'm going to do is steal the headline that they used. Man, these old men can still fight, huh?
Yeah, dude.
Don't ever count a vet out, man. Between Wonderboy, between Aldo, I mean, it was just a night. It was a showcase of the vets out there. It was really the experience against the young guys. And unfortunately for them, a lot of the young guys weren't able to pull it off. But I was just so impressed with Wonderboy. Honestly, that's where I feel like I was most impressed over the week. His ability to hit, not get hit, even after the headbutt. I mean, that was a significant cut over both of their eyes, and the fact that he was able to almost play off it like it was nothing and just continue on fighting. I mean, and not only continue fighting, but fight his game in and out at what 37, I believe, and he still got foot movement like that, still got the quickness, still have the speed advantage on these guys. I'm incredibly impressed, honestly.
I mean, how can you not be impressed with that? I think Jeff Neal, it was big step up for him to be going in there against a guy like Wonderboy. But I think Wonderboy showed why Wonderboy, even though like he said, he doesn't want to be seen as a gatekeeper for this division, but I mean, he shows why they always have to keep him at the top of the weight class. I mean, dude, they banged it out, but he just showed that he was superior in the technique department for me on that one. I think that was the biggest difference, is just the fact that he really was showing, that difference in skill sets, man, different in skill levels. Like I said, man, it was a great performance by him. Another thing to talk about off that card, we had, the man who's been really making some waves from here in Michigan, Chaos Williams, stepped up again to fight on that card. He lost by decision in this one, but quite a lot of people are saying they thought that Chaos won that fight. For all of you, I was really hoping Chaos, being a hometown boy, he was going to get another dub. I know you saw it for his opponent. What are your thoughts on that fight now that we're a few days removed from it?
Well, like you said, I mean, we watched the card together. I want to preference this with, I'm a huge Chaos Williams fan. Not only with what he was able to do in his last couple wins, but even just the way he carries himself in and out of the octagon, the way that he presents himself. He's very cocky, confident, but not above and beyond. I really like the way he carries himself, especially for a fellow Michigander / Detroit area man. But I did score it for Michel Pereira. I thought he just did a little more. I feel like when Chaos was causing chaos and getting in there and throwing combos and actually getting in his face, I thought he was doing an incredible job. But he was kind of almost looking for that exact moment to strike too much instead of just trying to imply his
head
game.
hunting it too much rather than kind of just letting it flow.
Yeah, absolutely. He was looking to try to land that knockout blow at any given point, and I don't think he found that point throughout the whole fight. That's one thing when you're fighting somebody like that who's super elusive. I mean, we just referred to it with the main event fight. That's one thing you cannot do. You have to apply the pressure. That was the same thing when Jeff Neal was able to get some success off against Wonderboy, is when he applied his own pressure. You kind of hear it a lot when you watch these interviews for fighters and stuff. They say they don't train for their opponent. They train to implement their game on their opponent. And I feel like that's what a lot of these elusive guys, that's kind of what you have to do. You know,
I agree with you on that one, man. It's just like, the thing is, man, it's like the old saying, you know, especially in boxing more so, you're always taught this, like, you know, you can't go in looking for a knockout. If you go in looking for a knockout, like you just said, you could be waiting for the perfect moment, you know, that may never come. Speaking of a guy, you know, who has gotten the flow of fighting down real well, another guy who's coming off a dub here now, Anthony Pettis fought last night, and now it's just been announced that he's leaving the UFC to leave for what maybe might be greener pastures in Bellator. For any of you guys that are watching, let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this one with Anthony Pettis leaving the UFC. Corey, I don't know. For me, man, I'm not really surprised by the move with his brother Sergio already being over there. We were talking about this a little bit before we went on the air. I don't see, I mean, short of Pitbull, there's nobody really at 155 who's going to mess with Anthony Pettis. I'm sorry. There's just not.
Agreed.
In my personal opinion, outside of Pitbull, which is going to be a title fight, there ain't nobody else that he ain't going to just walk in there and smack him. I'm sorry. I'm no disrespect to the Bellator division. The only fight, here's one for you. You want to know who I want to see him fight? Bring him in and let him fight Miles. That's what I want.
I was just gonna say it. I was gonna beat you to it, but especially the fact that he hasn't had a fight booked yet, and that he's kind of, I haven't seen anything.
And that fight was already supposed to be booked in the UFC.
Yeah, so that'd be a hell of a matchup. It really would. I'd love to see it personally. I mean, not just because he's a friend of the show, but I think that would be the perfect setup into the Bellator. I think that would be like a, hey, you know, you guys are both former UFC guys at this point. You guys are both still in the prime ages of your career, but have been fighting for a while, you know? So who's still got it? Who's bringing it to the table? And you know, who's got it on the night, especially, you know?
And that's the thing. I mean, ultimately, and here's the other flip side to that. Okay, so yeah, I would love to see Miles and Anthony Pettis fight, man. But here's the thing. So Anthony Pettis, the question is, will Miles take that fight? Yes, is it a big name fight, but will he take that fight? Because if you remember, after Miles' last fight, he said that he feels like the next fight for him is a title shot. So,
I think, not to interrupt you, but I feel like the next fight for him should either be somebody like that, a new signee that has some serious name value, or a tournament fight. And we went over with him. If you guys go check out the past show that we did with him just a couple months back, actually, we talked about that. The fact that a tournament might be a real option. You know, Bellator's kind of known for it. And talk about adding another name into a tournament bracket. I think that would be an incredible one.
I mean, I would love it. I mean, like I said, any way they insert Anthony Pettis into that 155-pound division for them is great. However that shakes out, I mean, I would love to see Miles and Anthony fight. I mean, like I said, it was already supposed to be booked in the UFC. If they run it here in Bellator, I like it. I especially like this fight almost better now than I did originally. And again, call it bias, call it what you want. You know, I mean, obviously we're a little partial towards Miles on this side of town, but you know, that being said, it's
could you see somebody like Anthony Pettis going over and contending with Rory McDonald for their 170 PFL tournament? I know he said he wants to.
I mean, they said that they're not did he sign officially with Bellator or anybody yet, or did he just?
No, he just got released today. And it wasn't even a release; it was a mutual part of ways. So I think that kind of speaks to the fact that he's been almost planning this, or maybe the UFC kind of told him, "Hey, you make a good chunk of money. You see the direction we're moving in with younger guys. You have a real shot to still do something with your career." I personally would love to know those details, and I don't think that takes away from anything with Anthony Pettis either. I think he deserves to go out there and make some money. It's kind of like almost like what they did with Eddie Alvarez when he left and went, shopping himself around to go make some more money. I think that's kind of the same type of situation. But I would love to see him in PFL. I really think that's a huge name. That would be a huge signing. I agree. His brother already being in Bellator really kind of shows like.
But he could be the big name for them coming in over there to PFL,
Yeah.
And that being said, like you said, I wasn't sure if they had announced the name yet. I know PFL has been thrown around for quite a bit. But I mean, it's something that Dana has talked about on multiple occasions, though. He's talked about that in the next coming months, there's going to be 50 to 60 cuts in the UFC. And a lot of those names that are going to be on there are going to be the old vets. I mean, we just saw Yoel Romero. Now, to be honest with you, I'm honestly surprised that he signed with a Bellator over Bare Knuckle FC. But
yeah,
I really kind of thought that was where he's going to go. But that
Yoel, Bare Knuckle out there savaging people. Like, I mean, granted, I love Bare Knuckle, but a lot of their people are on the older scale of the career. Talk about a beast over there. He could really have lit that whole division up. I wonder if that was they couldn't match offers, or if he was just more interested in still, staying in the MMA range. It's just there's a huge, like you said, it's a giant landscape of releases and signees and new faces, old faces getting recycled into new organizations. It's going to be interesting over this next year to see where the cards kind of shuffle. You know what I mean?
I agree with you, man. There's a lot that, we got to see where it goes. You've got a lot of that on the wrestling end too, man. But since we're talking about wrestling a little bit, there's a lot of that. That's, I think, the thing that makes me most intrigued to see what happens going into 2021. Corey, I don't know how much you've seen of it, but there's been a lot of talk this week on the wrestling end of things that we've heard that the USA executives have specifically demanded that they want more of an adult content from WWE on Raw, because the stuff that they're coming out with has become even too corny, apparently, for the USA execs, which for a wrestling fan, I'm just saying I like that. I think we've already seen a little bit of that, because, I mean, we haven't seen nothing like this since Kane caught The Undertaker on fire fucking 20 years ago. Randy Orton faced The Fiend in a Firefly Funhouse Inferno match, which you don't see too many Inferno matches as it is. The Fiend got caught on fire like a fucking the Fiend got caught on fire. His shit was burning pretty good. I mean, he had a coat on and all, but my man's was lit up. Don't know what really else to say about it, but my man's was lit up.
So
he was on fire.
That's a very, very interesting directional twist. All right, so from what I do remember when I was a kid, I remember SmackDown kind of being the more PC,
Well, they were on UPN.
The blue and white, they had the clean look. Raw was raw in your face. They were like, the theme song hit different. Everything about it was just a little different. And so if that's the direction they're going to go, I completely support it, because I feel like that must have been a direction they abandoned throughout the years then, because that's,
I mean, that's been the reason why nobody wants to watch Raw. I mean, that's the stark contrast between why people are saying SmackDown is so much better than Raw, in that Raw, the storylines for the vast majority, other than maybe like your main two, have been like, it hasn't made any sense. There's no continuity in it. There's no, like, it doesn't, like we've talked about before, give me a reason why these guys are fighting, like the Randy Orton thing with Bray Wyatt. Perfect, because you've got the history with them. Corey, let me give you a quick history lesson so you can understand why the Inferno match was such a big deal. Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt already have a history that culminated in Randy lighting the house where Sister Abigail was buried on fire before. So that's why them going into an Inferno match is interesting. Randy Orton was also tag champions and infiltrated the Wyatt family before he took on Bray Wyatt. So they had a past going into it. But, for so long, wrestling fans have been complaining because it's so crazy, right? You'll watch Raw and you see this corny, like, for lack of a better way to put it, you see this kiddie bullshit on Raw, but then you watch Wednesday when you've got NXT and AEW going head to head. And as we've spoke about before, even though they're supposed to be the quote unquote developmental brand, I mean,
they're the ones out here breaking necks and cashing checks,
right. You know what I mean? Like that's the show that, if I'm being honest with you, has been the better.
From being slightly more immersed, obviously the fact that I do a now 50-50 podcast with wrestling, I'm significantly more immersed than I was just a couple months ago. And one thing I definitely have noticed is I don't see too much of the Raw stuff. Like you said, like whenever I see anything like shared on Twitter or anything like that, it always does seem to kind of be the NXT stuff is the most popular out of all of it. And from what I see, at least, which is surprising because, like you say, it's supposed to be the developmental, but obviously people are liking what they're seeing. I mean, it amazes me. It really does. That's one thing that actually is genuinely surprising.
And they're so different.
Yeah, that's one thing that genuinely, like, honestly surprised me with wrestling was the fact that, like, there's a significant more amount of eyes on the up and comers than there is on the stars. It feels like, you know what I mean?
I feel like a lot of that has to do with the fact that, like, star power is always a great thing to have, whether it comes from, old vet guys in the locker room or whomever it comes from. That's great. That's always something that can be used. But if you overuse it and you're trying to, like, basically live off the star power of somebody, like we talked about in one of our last week's show with Derek, we talked about Roman Reigns versus Goldberg and the match they're putting together with that. They're hoping that the fact that it's Goldberg, people are going to be like, holy shit, it's Goldberg. And you know what I mean? When here's where you have the stark differences. This is where there's the big difference between an NXT and a Raw, right? Raw, you get a lot more of your casual fans. So people who, they're going to watch, they don't watch it so hard, so they just look at what they're seeing on the TV, to where somebody like me or people who watch it, regularly, they're watching it and you're like, well, dude, this shit is garbage. While on the other hand, you've got WWE, say what you want about their growth, say what you want about their TV numbers and ratings and all that kind of shit, say what you want. But if you want to talk about biggest social media presences and biggest presences in media, like, they have the biggest fucking YouTube channel in the world. That's bigger than NFL, ESPN, NBA, MLB, all them motherfuckers.
Who again? You said Raw?
WWE.
Oh, WWE.
WWE as a whole has a bigger YouTube channel than any other fucking channel.
Okay.
And I mean, that right there tells you what you need to know. The fact that they're still on that big a broad a scale. But I feel like that's also kind of became their crutch, because they have been the industry leader for so long that now that you have a number two who maybe AEW is never going to take WWE over. They're not. But they are making, and it's not even arguable, since AEW has come on the scene and there's a viable second option for guys to be going to and things of that nature, WWE knows they're there. There's a reason why.
Question.
Go ahead.
And one thing I've noticed with that too is it seems like AEW has a significantly smaller roster. Like they have a lot more repeating wrestlers out there, night to night, where WWE's got the broader roster. So it seems like they're doing a really good job with the fact of having the smaller roster. They're able to push these stories of people a lot further, and you can get a lot more in character with the single people because of the fact that it's not as many. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's not so much the roster. I think it's that 3 hours is too long.
Okay. That's an interesting take, though, because
here's the reason.
As a huge UFC fan, though, I sit down and watch the 6.5 hour damn cards all the time. So
right, but here's the difference, though. UFC is built up off of wanting to see two guys fight, which is what wrestling is supposed to be built up on. But here's the problem, right? In 3 hours, you've only got so much time. You've got commercials, you got all that. And you got to fit 10 pounds of shit into a 5-pound bag. And to try to make it to where everybody's shit makes sense, they aren't doing a good job at that anymore.
I tell you one thing, as a newer person back to viewing it at all, essentially, one thing I really do not like is that picture-in-picture.
I hate picture-in-picture.
That commercial, the way that they just will literally, it's a smaller window than I am on this, on your phone right now. It seems like whoever's watching this, than it is the ads, the whole screen. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Why even do picture-in-picture? Just do a shorter ad, charge more, do whatever you have to do, give them full head right. I don't know, but that's not the right way to go about it in my eyes.
Bro, I'm not a fan of that stuff at all. I say it all the time. I've said it on multiple occasions ever since they started doing it. I don't like the way AEW does it. I don't like NXT doing it. I'm not a fan of picture-in-picture, especially because here's the thing. I feel like you can almost get away with it more so in an MMA context than you can in pro wrestling. Here's why. MMA, you don't really need to hear the crowd, right?
Right.
If you're watching a wrestling match and a spot happens and some big shit happens and you're not watching it. Now, granted, there are not crowds in the arenas right now, but I'm saying we're talking about on general to why I don't like picture-in-picture. When there are crowds, if something happens, you can't hear the crowd fucking lose their shit, and realize that something is that big of a deal. I feel like, to me, it takes away from the impact, and to me, they're just too distracting. I get why you would do it from a marketing standpoint. Obviously, people might watch more of the commercials because the match is still on there. But for me, I end up fast forwarding them most of the time.
Well, all right. So, creative marketing thought here. With everybody doing essentially the Thunderdome type setup where it's all screens and stuff surrounding them, what if they did picture in your picture, if you get what I'm saying? Like, they put an ad up on the screen behind the actual match, but the match was still
that would never work, because then from an ad revenue standpoint, I feel like the people that you're selling those ads to would say that they're not getting their money's worth on the ad. I feel like it would be the opposite, because like you just said, how many of those ads did you skip through? You're not going to skip through it if it's actual, like, the match is still going on. You can hear the promotion, but instead of it being a screen of fans behind them, it's a Geico, for 30 seconds or a minute or whatever of the match. Dude, Geico has stepped their game up, sir. I mean, I just listened to a podcast today at work that was completely sponsored by Geico. Like, it says Geico presents something to wrestle with. And I'm like, damn, Geico is just saying, fuck the ad. We're going to just take the whole show.
I am in love with the deal that I get with Progressive, but Geico, if you want to step it up and
Come
over and
on.
sponsor
I got
your
Progressive
boy.
too, man. But hey, I will gladly switch my insurance to Geico if you would like to get down with knockouts and 3 counts. Clearly,
I've
the
always
Root Boy
loved
didn't want to
lizards.
get down with us,
I've
but I
always
mean,
loved
hey,
lizards. They're so cool. They crawl. This one talks. I mean, come on, Geico, where you at?
Andy's got a badass accent too.
What? So back to the action though, because I feel like one thing we do really need to talk about while we got these people's attention to still before we go ranting off too much. The UFC is going crazy with releasing all their matchups, man. I don't know if you took a peep at all these matchups. I know I had a short little talk with you before the show about it, but they're rebooking, moving, doing everything they can, and they're setting up all kinds of stuff. Did you see the 3-card week that they have set up for their return?
No, I didn't.
They're gonna do essentially what they did when they came back from the COVID break, which was the Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday event. Which
Say that again.
The Saturday, Wednesday, and then Saturday. So 3 cards 1 week.
When is that going down?
That's going to be their opening when they come back.
So when they come back, they're kicking it off with 3 cards in a week.
Yeah, it's gonna be headlined, of course. Card subject to change with everything going on in the world right now. I mean, I'm sure I ain't gotta tell any of you real fans that, but we got in the first headliner, we got Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar. Hell of a fight.
That's a
love that matchup. Love that matchup. Not only to see if Kattar's the guy, but to see if Holloway is still the uncrowned champ. In my eyes, that he really is. Well, then they step right back with the rebooking.
Hold on a minute, though. You can't call Max Holloway the uncrowned champ because Volkanovski won fair and square.
Did you score either of those fights for him, Kyle?
I thought Holloway won, but it wasn't like it wasn't like Volkanovski didn't come in there to fight. Andy beat him twice.
Did you score either?
Did I score or did judges score? My score doesn't mean shit. They fought twice, and twice it ended up on the scorecards. That's why they always say don't leave it to the judges. It don't matter if you and I come on here a Monday morning quarterback the shit and say Volkanovski won.
What about?
Because it don't fucking matter. Because he got the belt.
What about if it's not me and you though? What about if it's Big John McCarthy coming on saying I'm the one that wrote the rules and Max Holloway won that fight?
Okay, but did Max Holloway go fight it with the commission?
No, because I don't think Max Holloway's that kind of guy. And
ultimately, though, he's the only one that's going to speak his mind for it. Because who the fuck else is going to? Volkanovski surely ain't.
I love what Max said, too, because he was campaigning to get a third fight. And Dana would even push Volkanovski to try to get a third fight. He said if it was Jordan and Kobe and it was a one-on-one game, they would play 100 times until they figured out who the real winner was. You know what I mean?
So do you think that Volkanovski's scared is what we're getting at?
No, I do not even a little bit. And even though I say that I think Max is the rightful champ, I do not. I say that as much not trying to take away from Volkanovski as I can, because I really respect the guy. I really like the man himself, the way he fights in the cage. He really does, like you said, bring the fight. He's an absolute monster. And if you look back on his resume, it even shines even brighter now, looking at like what Aldo did coming off the weekend and stuff like that. I mean, about Aldo. Volkanovski's a deserving champ. I think Holloway won. I also think you fight a man twice in a row. I have no problem with you wanting to fight somebody else, even if the world sees it different than the judges did.
Well, and that's all I'm saying. I'm not even saying that I necessarily didn't think that Holloway won, but the thing is, ultimately, they fought twice, and twice they came out with the decision that Volkanovski won. Now, if nothing else, I got no problem with Max staying up in the top of it, but give Max another fight. For all of you guys that are watching this, if you've got something else to say about it and you think that somebody else should be fighting him, or you got a different plan for Max Holloway, let us know. You brought up
I love the Calvin Kattar matchup. I really do.
I agree. I like it.
I would have.
I like that
any
matchup
of the
too.
top contenders. I truly feel as though that's an awesome fight. That's another fight. While we're still on the Volkanovski thing, though, before we jump around, I wanted to mention that's another fight that's getting announced. Brian T. City Ortega's taking on Volkanovski in February.
I'm not mad at that either, because how can you say that Ortega don't deserve a title fight? He fucking demolished. We're not talking about beat. We're talking about this man cut his hair off and came out looking like a motherfucking savage. That's what we're talking about. This man cut his hair off and went samurai mode real quick. He cut his hair off and went samurai mode real quick. You see the shirt, it says protect your neck. You should have protected everything when it came to Brian T. City Ortega in that fight. I really like that fight, and that fight really intrigues me. But another fight that we got to talk about from UFC Vegas 17 is Jose Aldo coming out and reminding motherfuckers, y'all must have forgot. I'm just saying, Jose Aldo came out and showed what's good on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was nasty, dude. I mean, all right. How did you score it? Did you give Cheeto the second round or no?
That would have been the only round I could have really seen him getting.
Yeah. Well, I
honestly,
see. If you're gonna give him
one, two's the only one that was even close.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that Aldo was able to pull that veteran move of just taking the man down and locking him in that body triangle and just controlling the round, doing enough action so that the ref had nothing to say. Yeah, I mean, all
Aldo was peppering him, bro. He was not coasting to a victory, bro. He was bashing dude's face in. And for all of you guys that just joined the feed, yes, I know we advertised the Rude Boy. We were going to be talking about IBW seasons beatings. I don't know what happened. I think he must have fell asleep, but we're not sleeping. We're talking about these fights that just went down this past weekend. Jose Aldo showed motherfuckers why you shouldn't be sleeping on the veteran. If you follow us at KO3C Pod, you saw that I said this during the fight while it was happening. Like I said, man, I will always be a fan of Jose Aldo. You know, when I came up training and fighting, man, when I came up training and fighting, man, like Aldo was still on his tear. This is when him and Faber fought, you know, where he went on that streak for how many years it was where he was undefeated, when he left a big old goose egg on Mark Hominick's head. Like, I watched this dude like run through people. Speaking about, you know, taking it back a little bit and, you know, goose eggs and, you know, all these kind of things, you know, since I was going to tell this with tonight's supposed to be guest, the Rude Boy, Rudy Hill. I did get to make it out to a JCW show, and since it was a pretty funny story, I figure I might as well tell you guys what really happened when I went out there, man. We were going to tell this on the show because, as we mentioned, you know, Rudy's mainly known for his time in JCW. You know, I came on out here with my only experience at a JCW show. Corey, we talked about this, had leg surgery senior year of high school. You know, and I want to know what you would do in the same situation. So I'm sitting there, we're in the Modern Exchange, got my leg all cocked up, you know, on the couch back there watching the fight. As I'm doing this, I realize that the Necro Butcher is walking towards me, and I'm like, okay, well, shit, they're about to fight right next to where I'm at. Then I realized, oh, shit, he's got a light tube. And then I realized, oh, shit, I'm in a cast. So I can't get up and move. So all I see is Necro is beating this poor guy to death. Goes to swing the light tube, and I'm like, oh shit. Cover up real quick, because yeah, dude, it was It got real gnarly real quick. You know, it was
Almost got blinded for a second time.
I mean, bro, it was something, you know, and we want to talk about things that are gnarly and things that were out of the way. Why don't we talk a little bit about Submission Underground?
Submission Underground.
Submission Underground 19 went down this past Saturday, which was supposed to be, you know, they said it wasn't the main event, but the real match everybody was coming there to see was RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos, former UFC light heavyweight champion, taking on fellow UFC compatriot Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Now, I'm going to preface this before we start talking about Submission Underground. Did I or did I not say before we were going to watch this that you need to not sleep on Cowboys Jiu-Jitsu?
You absolutely did, and I'm absolutely going to say that I picked RDA to win. I really thought Dos Anjos was going to go in there.
I just want it on the record. I picked Cowboy. I just want that on the record. I said Cowboy was going to win.
I was very... So, for all of those out there who didn't get a chance to actually watch the fight, it is on Fight Pass. If you got the app, go back and watch it, because it was a super entertaining night. You can kind of jump around and stuff. If you're into the submission games, it was entertaining. That being said, though, there was huge controversy with that particular fight. They said that
RDA didn't.
The ref
got caught.
The ref said that he tapped to the armbar. RDA was arguing the fact that he didn't tap, even though if you look in the replay, in my eyes, I made the argument on Twitter that I thought it was a tap. If I was a ref, I would have stopped it just because of the fact that it was such a quick change in position. The fact that he double tapped on the leg to kind of create space. It looked like a tapping motion in the transition more than it looked like him trying to create space.
So here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now I need to say this. And again, ding, ding, ring the bell. I fought before. Fuck you, Devin. Hey, before I forget, good time as any. For all of you loyal fans that have been watching us for a long time, since it's the Christmas season, next week, somehow or another, we will be joined by the return of Mr. McKenzie. Next week, Devin is going to be coming in to kick it with us. A little bit of the OGs of this show with the new Young Bucks. Corey over here out here with the show. I think it'll make for a good, fun show. Make sure you're checking us out live next week, 9 p.m. here on Facebook. And if you don't check it out live, always available on YouTube, podcast, all that stuff. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you smash that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of the great action coming from the homies at Knockouts and 3 Counts. All right. Now, to give a little bit of backstory to what you were saying. So, as Corey said, you know, RDA got caught in an armbar. He kind of yelled, you know, as they switched, and the ref took that as a verbal tap. Now, I saw.
Well, no, he even made the motion with his hand, too.
I know. Let me get there. And there was also the 2, you know, push-offs that he tried to do off his leg that looked like taps. Now, take those completely out of it. Now, anyone who trains jiu-jitsu can tell you this. And I am telling you this because I've lost a match like that before. In Toledo, in the Toledo Jiu-Jitsu Open, I lost a match via armbar because the guy had me in a triangle, switched to an armbar. I tried to defend it. He went dick down, and as soon as he went down, my elbow popped. And I yelled without even trying to, and the ref stopped it. It's a known fact that if you're in a jiu-jitsu match and you are in an armbar or something like that, an armbar, a leg lock, Kimura, anything like that, and you yell, yep, that's considered a verbal tap.
Well, yeah, because they assume that even if your other hand's tied up, that you're not going to be able to actually.
Because a lot of times, dude, for me, when I did that shit, I didn't even mean to yell.
Yeah,
I didn't even mean to yell. I just did it.
And that's exactly what happened to RDA, except for it was an involuntary body reaction with the double tap. He meant to just grab the leg, but because he was in pain and because it was such a quick transition, he doubled. You know, he doubled up. Kind of like, you know, you go to you're playing your game, you go to jump, you accidentally double hit the button. You know, it's the same type of thing, you know.
I could totally see that. Like I said, I had no problem with them saying Cowboy won the first time, but isn't it ironic that not once but twice he beat him with 2 arm bars?
The same way.
The same
And
way,
not
arm bar.
not only that, the fact that RDA got lucky on the coin toss, had the chance in the first over round. The second run of the overtime rounds, he had the first chance because he won the coin toss again. I mean, what a lucky dog. And then, but it kind of goes to show, ball don't lie. Essentially, is exactly what I walked away feeling like. Oh, ball don't lie. He won the exact same way. That's the feeling it left me with. But out of the other fights of the night, man, there was some incredible performances, man. My standout for the Sugg fights was Ryan Bader, man. What he was able to do.
He owned Anthony Johnson. Now, don't get it twisted. I mean, Rumble's never been known as a guy who is the biggest jiu-jitsu guy, but dude, Bader did not let him fucking do nothing. Like
my man couldn't breathe, dude.
I mean, the only thing I can say positive on Rumble's defense is that he didn't get submitted.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he fought off everything. Might have been real sketchy, but he fought off everything. Now, here's the question, though. This is where these submission underground things and these grappling matches are fun, though, because now you've got Rumble, who just went over there to Bellator, where Ryan Bader's been the kingpin. Well, if we're looking at the series between the two, they're tied 1 apiece.
Yep.
Bader got beat by Rumble, and then he just beat Rumble now. So I'm just saying that makes for a pretty fun fight.
I watched Chael's review of the night, because he put a review episode up on his channel. That's one thing he kind of noted too, was he wondered, just like I was going into the fight, what would be Ryan Bader's game plan. Was the fact that he did have that loss previously to him, would that carry over into this match? Which I think it did. I really do, but I think it did an opposite effect as you would think for most people. I think Chael made an excellent point, and I hate to rip on all these people that I watch, but they're vets of the game, so that's where I get my knowledge from, But Chael made an excellent point that he used the fear. He felt a lot of fear in that fight, especially going into the initial start of the match. I feel that's what fueled him to do as well as he did. He turned that fear into a motivation. He didn't run from the fear. He actually faced it head on and turned that loss, like you said, into a win in my eyes.
Okay, so I disagree with you, and here's why. I don't think it had anything to do with turning fear into motivation. I think he came in there with motivation off rip, just at the fact that you got to remember. So there's been all this talk about Rumble coming over to Bellator. Everybody knows that him and Bader fought there, and everybody knows that since Bader's went over there, except for his loss in that last fight, I mean, dude, Bader hasn't been touched in Bellator. Mm-hmm. By nobody. By Fedor, by nobody. He's been...
a lot of that, in my eyes, was as of luck, based on the fact that he got put into that heavyweight tournament. He was the significantly smaller guy than all of those guys, which gave him a huge speed advantage, and the fact that he had a giant wrestling advantage over all those guys.
But is that his fault?
The size. No, not at all.
That's my point. Like, he on paper should not be the guy who won that, and he owned all of them.
100%.
That's my whole point. He owned all of them. So with Rumble coming in now, you've got all these people saying, well, yeah, Bader kicked everybody's ass in Bellator, but now Rumble's coming over there. Well, now you're getting an opportunity through this submission underground, even if it isn't a fight per se, to show everybody what's up. And now he's beaten them, and now you've only raised the ire for what's to come out of this. Like I said, it leaves some definite interesting things, if nothing else, man, to see what comes out of this. Personally,
while we're still on the Submission Underground stuff, though, I really do love those cards. I find them really entertaining. The fact that they're able to get a lot of these, bigger name stars across platforms and kind of face them off head to head. I mean, I really like the matchups that they do. I like that the UFC is willing to let some of their bigger guys compete in this. It's awesome. It really is. The whole concept of it's great. I like the combat jiu-jitsu that Eddie Bravo does as well. I like the striking elements of that a little bit more because it kind of allows people to rethink their game. But for a pure submission platform, Submission Underground, there's nobody higher at the moment. That's for sure in my eyes.
So we'll definitely have to jump into it a little bit more on another one, but they also had the Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds that went down. That's something that I would like to do because I've talked about this in a lot of times. Obviously, yes, it means you're going to get hit too, but the idea of being able to hit somebody when I'm on top of them,
yeah,
like I just like that. Before we get out of here, I would be remiss not to bring up. So we talked a little bit about TLC. TLC went down on Sunday. I had to give credit where it's due. I honestly didn't give a fuck about this show. If you want to know you want to know the honest truth, I really didn't give a fuck. There were like 2 matches on the whole card where I'm like, okay, that's interesting. That I want to see that. But bell to bell, from front to back, that was one of the better pay-per-views that WWE's put on in 2020. Period.
It's funny how those turn out like that. That
it's the ones where you're like, I don't give a fuck.
You always hear like the UFC fans will say like, "Oh, this card's a bunch of nobodies. I know only person I know is the main event, and he's lost 2 in a row. I'm not even gonna watch Saturday. It's not even worth it." And then you tune in, and they don't even know who to give the bonuses to because there's so many good fights.
And here's where I got to give kudos to WWE. Right? See, right off the rip, I give credit where it's due. So they started with what I thought was the main event. They started with Drew McIntyre versus AJ Styles in a ladder match for the WWE Championship right off the rip. So the first fucking match off the card as soon as the pay-per-view starts, which that usually never happens. Now, I also understand why they did it. In hindsight, I think it probably would have been a better idea to do the Firefly Funhouse Inferno match at the front of the night, only because it made it very hard for, with that being the main event, you still had that coming. I just think it would have been better, if you kind of switched it around, because this is where the wrestling nerd and the purist in me comes out. I say the same thing a lot when we watch fights too. I think the title always needs to be kept here, right? So to me, the World Championship match should be at the end.
Right.
Unless you've got 2 World Championship matches on a card, to me, the World Championship should be at the end. That's just me.
It's what holds the most weight. They made that argument with the Tony Ferguson fight in this last event. I heard it a lot. Should they bump that to the main event so that it would be a 5-round fight? And that's a different situation, of course, because the rounds, but in my eyes, I 100% agree with you. If you're the belt holder, there's a reason why you're the champion,
So we said that, but like I said, I have to give credit where it's due. So they also tied into the fact, even though I still think it's fucking stupid. They had The Miz come in and cash in the Money in the Bank. But first of all, obviously not the smartest move by Miz, because now all you did was make it a triple threat ladder match, where what a Money in the Bank does is you're able to cash it in anytime. Doesn't matter. Even if they're in the middle of a match, you can come in and cash that shit in and pin the guy and it's over with. He did that and added himself in and made it a triple threat ladder match, and then they both lost. So, yeah. So I thought that was a nice twist to throw that in like that. I thought it added a little bit to the match, but personally, I've said this for years. Miz is very underutilized. As somebody who self-admittedly shit all over the Miz when he first came in, the guy is criminally underused since he had his WWE title reign. They did a good job with that match. As mentioned, the Firefly Funhouse Inferno match, I thought they did a good job with that. So overall, I got to give credit where it's due. Kudos, WWE. Like I said, this was a much better show than I expected it to be. Next week, as long as everything goes to plan, if there's one thing I can guarantee you this holiday season, it's that we're coming out of Christmas with a bang, as Devin is going to be here with us live next week, which means if nothing else, if I'm not mistaken, I think we're all going to be in the same room. So any of you that have been watching us for a long time, all of us together in the same room for a show is always in the makings for fireworks. And for all of you guys that tuned in and checked us out this week, like I said, thank you for checking us out, even though things didn't go quite according to plan.
Well, before we do a send off, we got about 3 minutes left. I want to run through because I didn't get the chance to run through some of the matchups that got announced, and I got a whole handful of them over here, man. So real quick, not to interrupt you, but starting off, we got the rebooking of Kazmat versus Leon Edwards. That's the fight that's going to be taking place on the Wednesday night. Then we got the Saturday pay-per-view with Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. There's been rumors floating around, though, that those cards might actually take place on ABC and not even ESPN. So they may not even be pay-per-views. It's kind of being floated around right now from the rumor mills.
I mean, look, bro, I'm not going to be mad at all if Conor and Poirier ends up not on pay-per-view, but I find that hard to believe.
I would be very surprised as well. We got the Dan Hooker versus Michael Chandler fight. That's going to be co-main event that night. We got Ian Highnish versus Kevin Gaslin. We got a whole handful of people. Follow my Twitter. I'm constantly retweeting and posting.
What is your Twitter, fights. Corey? Tell him those things.
Fight fan from the 313. If you guys watch this show every week, you would know this.
Well, for our first timers, I won't be so rude like Corey. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Detroit Knockout. Make sure you're following the show at KO3C Pod. And if you haven't already done so, hit that motherfucking subscribe button so you don't miss any of the great content coming from your homies at Knockouts and 3 Counts. And on another and more softer note, before we get out of here, this is going to be the last time we talk to you guys before Christmas time. I just want to wish all of you guys a great holiday. I thank all of you guys for watching with us and bearing with us through this pandemic. I know it's been a tough year on everybody. It's been a tough year on us here at Knockouts and 3 Counts, and you've seen a lot of changes. But for all of you guys that have stuck it out with us, checked it out with us, all that good stuff, and even checking us out tonight, even though, like Corey said at the beginning of the show, which may be the title of this motherfucker, card subject to change. And until next time and in the in-between time, peace. Fuck your couch.